This is where the ancient cities and medieval civilizations emerged and disappeared. This is the cradle of great ideas, a place where science and arts prospered, the crossroads of trade and the boldest ideas. What is Central Asia like today? What do the countries in the region have in common? What is the cultural and genetic code of the peoples living in this part of the world? Stay tuned with Central Asian Guide to find out. Samarkand's printed silk. The voice of the great steppe. Shared Peku, heritage of Samarkand. Samarkand always had a special atmosphere in Central Asia. It is a great example of a mix of Eastern and European cultures. The history of the old city began almost 3,000 years ago, and most of this time it was an important stop on the way of caravans from China to Europe and back. Samarkand used to be a capital of ancient Sogdia and later Amir Timur's empire. That's when it became the center of science and medieval architecture, with its numerous palaces, madrassahs, attracting brightest scientists, and the famous observatory. After the military annexation of the part of the Emirate of Bukhara to the Russian Empire, a Russian quarter was built in Samarkand. There are still a lot of settlers from the Russian provinces in the ancient eastern city. They are keenly interested in the cultural heritage of Transoxiana and are trying to find the connections with the present. Hello, welcome. We always have guests. We came from Moscow. We read about this art gallery online. The combination of a national costume with modern clothes caught my attention. And these clothes can be worn in everyday life, and at the same time, they don't look strange. And it is created by wonderful designers. Here's Gulia. Today we have a meeting. Gulia created the outfit I'm wearing. It is wonderful, beautiful, very cozy and comfortable. Gallery of the national costume and at the same time the Museum of Textiles of the middle of the last century exists for only 1.5 decades. It immediately attracted folk craftsmen. It is located on the central square of the city, Registan. The creator of the gallery, Yelena Ladik, received a UNESCO certificate for the samples of traditional art that have been transformed by the imagination of contemporary designers. I worked in the Fergana Museum, and the weavers from Margilan are my friends. Margilan is the oldest town of textile artisans. I realized that I'm closer to my dream. And I enjoyed a lot. I always dreamed of a place for creative people, and we will use the textiles that we inherited from women who used to put the pieces of fabrics in chests to save them for important events in their lives. According to a custom, not less than 40 dresses should be in the newlyweds' room on a wedding day. That custom was followed in the past. Using the ethnic motives, we create designer clothes. We create wonderful dresses based on ethnic embroidery. We decorate them with additional embroidery. So we give a second life to things that may have lost their functional purpose. All of that are authors' works with embroidery, like in the previous dress, with a print. By the way, printing is a very interesting technology. Gulia makes amazing, cozy, comfortable dressing gowns using our national fabrics, embroidering them. In this case, this embroidery was made by the masters of Nurata. Oh, I really like sewing as well. I love it. I probably cannot live without dressing making. I have been doing it for 6 or 7 years. Well, here we have combined embroidery with an old bekasab. It's silk with cotton. You can do tassels. We came up with that idea. In the past, women's clothes did not have tassels, and now they decorate this piece. Oh, finally! Katya, it is beautiful! The piece looks completely different. It was pale, but then it became very bright and sparkling. But it requires a lot of work. This is our Katya Alexandrova. Hello, guys. Here are Volodya and Volodya. Come here. One of them makes prints and the second one makes shoes. Hello. Yes, that's us. Please meet our wonderful masters Volodya Ilyushin and Volodya Ahadbekov. Volodya Ilyushin works with leather. He's an artist of the highest level. He makes shoes for our collection. And Volodya Ahadbekov makes printed fabrics. He even wears a shirt made by him. What a talent. Look, everything's done by her hands. I wish your hands happiness and health so that they will never be in pain. We need to determine the model, its height, and the style. And it would be nice to make a suit. I think we need knee-high boots, right? Because the skirt is short. Yes, let's think about it. Volodya, have a sit, okay? I'll talk to Volodya. Volodya Ahadbekov turned out to be one of those enthusiasts who revived the ancient craft of textile printing. Traditionally, the patterns are printed on cotton fabrics, but he uses silk, although that requires more work and patience. Did you use onions or nuts? That's a nut. Nut, you mean the pattern or background? Background is made using nuts, and we added a little bit of alizarin. This color is nicer. Yes, it is unexpected and very beautiful. But I want to work with indigo, so it will be blue, like that. We need to experiment. Volodya, I really like the gray and green backgrounds. Now we'll see different results. Here you have left less background and made more patterns. I wanted to represent fresh impetus. Well, have a break for 5 minutes, okay? Have coffee with Volodya.
Володя.
I want to say that I really appreciate those rare people whom I met through my life. My friendship with many of them lasts for 20-30 years.
20-30 лет. Когда вот эти штучные вещи попадают в руки замечательных мастеров.
When wonderful craftsmen work on these rare pieces, we can make beautiful things that will bring joy.
Прекрасные, красивые вещи, которые принесут людям радость. То я думаю, в этом.
I think there is some big meaning in this, and thanks God we have it.
И слава Богу, что это у нас есть.
Another guest of Yelena for today is Volodya Ilyushin, an amazing master of exquisite footwear, which he makes only individually, creating collection models in accordance with a specific task that almost never repeats.
Володя, я вспоминаю, мы делали без каблука.
Volodya, I remember we did the same once, but without a heel here. We need a smaller pattern. Can you do that? Yes, of course, it is possible, but what about the color? Well, it will also be a nut-onion theme. Brown would be great. As always, I am pleased to do something new. Volodya is not just a shoemaker. He's a shoe artist, and all his works are very individual. They stunningly complete our collection. When we showed in China, I think that the main accent was our shoes. And despite the fact that it is hard to carry the shoes, and usually designers don't do that, but we took 2 suitcases of Volodya's shoes, and our collection looked great. Talking about these things, the most attractive thing is the opportunity to fit into the images that are created in this gallery, that is to bring something. Making things that would complement the composition is a very interesting process. Being a craftsman is about freedom, first of all. A freedom from the certain scenario of actions, thoughts and everything.
Навязанного образа действия, мысли.
Freedom of creativity. And for me, that's the most important thing in work.
Для меня самое главное в работе это именно это.
Shop and arcades, where artisans work, are located near the family crypt of Amir Timur, the mausoleum of Amir. In the East, this is a traditional combination of spiritual life, history, and everyday life. Hello, here's my workshop. Here are masters, artists of ceramics, embroidery, also the ones who make clothes and dolls. I'll show you how the print is made for the scarf. Well, Nagina, how are things? Everything's great. Now use paint. Where is the paint? She's my student. She's mastering batik, painting silk. In addition to printing, we also paint silk. When I was little, I liked drawing. A couple of times I came here and I liked it. And now, look, I'm already working with them. I really like working with them. We have prepared the material. This is an ancient kalagayu. It is Azerbaijani. Now we take the canvas and start printing. Under 45 degrees we make an angle. Here's an ornament, a frame. We put the paint and beat. Then we remove it. Here we have a print. We continue using the same method. Every master has his own patterns, ideas. In any case, it turns out to be an exclusive work. The technology of textile printing looks quite simple at the first glance, but it requires an artistic sense and careful observance of all parameters. That also refers to the tools, the wooden stamp, seal, or canvas. It is cut from a nut, as in the past. Our wood carvers put a drawing and then cut it out. Then the seal is brewed in oil for 3 to 4 hours and dried to prevent the paint from being absorbed. That's how they worked. This is a natural paint based on food, such as mung beans, flour, butter, and so on. And then the paint is left for about 3 months. After 3 months, the paint is ready. I read online and learned from the old masters who were still alive. They explained to me, and slowly I learned this method in 2 years, and I made paint. And I started printing. Now it will here for some time. I'll work further, and then we'll rinse it in the water, and it will not even fade. Natural paints are light sensitive and durable in comparison with chemical paints. So here's another pattern. And we start printing here with a 45-degree angle, and we get a square. And I will put one more ornament this way. That's how during this day, this fabric is completely printed, and we get a scarf. And now we will show the finished product, our scarves. Here are my works. I've been making Suzani and other things. And here are scarves. Here's with Samarkand, our Rajasthan, and camels. But this fabric is also for a dress or a blouse. It's also crêpe de chine, and it has that pattern. I used a printing technique for that and painted it myself. Here I used discharge printing. Behind the monuments you can see a caravan. That's my work. Any traditional culture needs researchers and enthusiasts, those who will always be interested in the folk art. That refers to the folk music as well. Without musicologists and composers who grew up with national sounds, it could simply be forgotten. Sometimes a tragic story can make irreparable adjustments in the history of culture. In the 20th century, the instrumental tradition of the Kazakhs' Q genre, and particularly Shertpe Q, was on the verge of extinction as a result of Stalin's political repressions. Later, researchers started writing scientific works about Kazakh virtuosi and reviving that extraordinary art. Explorer of folk art Ravshan Maldibaeva is one of the enthusiasts of that revival.
Я уверена и убеждена в том, что Q является достоянием.
I'm sure and convinced that Q is the heritage of the Turkic world, the Kazakh world, and worth world recognition. I was lucky to talk with the greatest musician of the 20th century, the outstanding performer of Arkin style, Magawi Hamzin. For a long time, I was visiting this genius musician with a small tape recorder, notebook, and a pencil. In the 20th century, not only individuals were repressed, but entire musical styles, in particular the Shertpe Q. Arkin styles suffered repression. What was the reason for this? Of course, the greatest personality of the 19th century, Tatimbet. Tatimbet was a musician, performer of the Arkin Q, the creator of his own instrumental style, but mostly he's known for being a brilliant politician, public figure, and entrepreneur. We know from the archival materials that in the 19th century, Tatimbet signed patents with Chevron, with other foreign companies, for the extraction of iron ore, for gold mining. Tatimbet was one of the very wealthy people of that time. With the advent of Soviets to power in the 20th century, all these merits were not accepted by the new authorities, and, moreover, his relatives suffered repressions. And now, his descendants live in Kamchatka. Many Q performers such as Kыздarbek, Sembek suffered repressions and were killed in 1937 just for being performers of the style. One of the followers of the composer and virtuoso Tatimbet, bright Q performer Abiken Hasanov, also suffered the political repression, but he managed to survive with the help of the intelligentsia of those years. In 1934, at the insistence of the later repressed writer Saken Seyfulin, the musician was invited to Alma-Ata. Many of the Shertpe Qs of the Arkin tradition were preserved in the interpretation of Hasanov.
Абикен Хасенов мы знаем в силу различных причин.
We know that for various reasons, Abiken Hasanov and his relatives and his family were completely repressed, and he miraculously survived. And for a long time he worked in Almaty at the Kazakh Drama Theater, and systematically he was going to the Kazakh radio and was recording everything he could in different versions. Kazakh Dombra music has two main performing styles, Shertpe and Tokpe. When it comes to the performance characteristics, Shertpe style has a huge number of details, various clicks, nuances that can be learned only during the real communication with the teacher. Kushi, Q performer. Researchers of Q Shertpe distinguish the styles of East Kazakhstan, Altai, Tarbagatai, Arkin, which I have mentioned earlier, Karatau Dombra style, and Jetsu style. In Arkin Dombra style, Dombra began to talk, as we say. It seems like transmitting a verbal text with an instrumental language.
Наверное, самым популярным представителем стиля Токпе
Probably Kurmangazi is the most popular representative of the Tokpe style of the West Kazakhstan region. Many poems were dedicated to him. There are a lot of scientific researches about him. But today I would like to share with you the history of creation of his Q Saryarka, which is a truly instrumental hymn of the Kazakh people. We know that Kurmangazi has been imprisoned for a long time in Orenburg, or Orenburg. And he made several escapes from prison. He created autobiographical cues such as Kizen Ashkan, Turmeden Kashkan, and many others. During one of his escapes, he was supposed to go from Russia to the West Kazakhstan and had to pass through Samarkand. And Samarkand was in fact the first place of his native land, his homeland. And the feelings of his soul after a long imprisonment were expressed in the sounds of the dombra. The young scientist was invited to the holiday of the Shertpekyu. Performers from all over Kazakhstan will gather there, and of course, a researcher of this genre could not miss such an event. Now I'm going to the Karaganda region, Shetsk district, with my colleagues, musicians, with the famous musicians Joly, Jibek, Batarlan, Abenov. Let's go. Performers of Kazakh instrumental music form a sort of brotherhood, which is based not only on the love for art, but also on the memory of the departed musicians. One of those who are commemorated with respect throughout the country is another follower of Tatimbet, Davletbek Sadvakasov. We are going to Shetsk district, but before going, I need to see Serek Ispanov. He asked to pick something up. Joly, I know that you are going to a meeting with Kushin. Therefore, I want to ask to pass on these books. Those are memories of those who knew Sekensey Folin, as well as works of researchers. I ask you to hand it over to the descendant of Davletbek Sadvakasov. Say hi to everyone for me. Do not let guests get bored. If they will ask you to sing, to play cue, just go ahead and play. Of course. I want to say that Davletbek Sadvakasov was a student of Abiken Hasanov, who preserved the cues of glorious Tatimbet. And I'll deliver your books. Don't worry. Have a good trip. We passed Karaganda, heading to the Shetsk district. A little more than 100 kilometers left until we reach the village of Aksu Ayole. Everything's fine. The weather and the road, everything's wonderful. Hello, how was your trip? Now we're meeting with well-known cue performer Serjan Shakratov. He came to the event from Mangistau. So we came at the house of Kairalaga, the son of the famous Kushi Davletbek Sadvakasov. Let's go and have some tea. Kairala Sadvakasov took after his father and opened the center of the Shertpekyu, where young people learn the music the traditional way. That is not by notes, but by watching the live performance of the teacher. Unfortunately, during the Soviet era, the art of cue performance in Shertpe style began to fade. There was a time when my father did not play dombra, but when he performed cue at home, he always listened to him. We liked this performance, and we got carried away playing dombra. And today our children continue to develop the traditions of the Kazakh instrumental culture. It is no secret that during the Soviet era, no attention was paid to a dombra. There were times when performers were not allowed to go on stage with this instrument. But thanks to the original composer and academician Ahmed Zhubanov, we were able to preserve our national traditions. Our folk instrument got a new life thanks to great masters, including Bek Sadvakasov. We intend to further develop the art of playing dombra. Before the performance, eminent musicians, according to custom, went to commemorate their ancestors and visited the ancient Saka burial. During the Soviet era, the performance of Shertbekyu was on the verge of extinction because of a big pressure on the musicians. But despite all this, my father Bek Sadvakasov managed to preserve the ancient traditions of the Kazakh people. And here we are. Now we will hear pure, true, beautiful Shertbekyu. Famous cliché, influencers in the field of folk music performed at the Regional House of Culture, demonstrated the unfading art, and made the listeners happy with masterpieces in the genre of the step cue. And after a mass festival, musicians from different regions of the country gathered into a small circle of connoisseurs and keepers of a great tradition in the tract near Aksu Ayole, where the traditional nomadic town is located. And here is one of the brightest representatives of the modern Karatau Dombra school, a collector, Kushi propagandist, Sayan Akmolda. He's my good friend. Sayan, how are you? Good. Can I listen to your cue performance? This is cue of Sembek called Family.
Sembek 1931 жылы аласапыран заман болғанда сол кезде атып.
Sembek is one of the outstanding Kushi. He was killed in 1931.
Сондықтан Sembek атамыздың шығарған сол.
This work has a deep meaning and is dedicated to all Kazakh people. Please allow me to perform it. Young scientist and promoter of cues, Maulet Ardabi is also a talented performer. Historical studies led him to the idea that in the past the musicians living near the Sirdarya, Arka, and East Kazakhstan closely communicated with each other, and this contributed to the adoption of features of the performance style from each other and the spread of the Shertbekyu almost throughout the entire steppe. Talasbek Asemkulov used a special technique while performing the Bajigit cues and taught him Bet's Molkara, which was preserved thanks to Talasbek, like here. And now I want to introduce you to Kalken Aga, the performer of Shertbekyu, the continuer of the tradition of Abikyan Hasanov. Only such a dombra is used for the performance. That is, the musical instruments of eastern or western Kazakhstan will not accurately convey the sound. Only Arkin dombra will show. More than 30 years ago it was made by the father's brother. And I still play on it. Well, our trip to the center of Sararka, the homeland of the Sherpa, has ended, and we, filled with good mood, emotions, returned back home to Astana.
впереди ждет шумный город.
A busy city life, a tough schedule are waiting for us. These 2 days were very useful for me and taught me a lot.